carving at that time. I only really get to do the carving occasionally. There's a couple of others in Scotland. In England, there's lots. The resurgence of framing happened in England really long before it happened up here. So there's no old framers that pass down the knowledge. Not in Britain anyway. In France and Germany as well, there were continuous traditions that were very similar to ours, but different in certain ways. In Britain we had to kind of relearn it to some extent, and that happened by a little bit by people going to Germany and France and learning a bit, but also by doing a lot of study of existing buildings, old buildings, and also by practice, by actually doing stuff. In Britain, the method that was used was different to any other country. Not only the structure of the buildings and the look of them, much more Gothic, but there's the whole business of arched braces and cruck frames. You don't really get cruck frames anywhere else very much. Whereas in Britain there were loads of them all over the country, different kinds in different parts of the country. Scotland has very much its own cruck frame tradition that's different to any other part of the country. So you get regional variations quite a lot as well. Well, I started off, I was just doing work on building sites and got into making chairs out of green wood, which is how they used to be made. It's called bodkin. And because I happened to be in a shop where they were advertising for volunteers to build this little barn in the woods, and as soon as I saw it I was like, wow, I want to do that. So I went and did it. Seeing that ad changed my life completely. It was like, I was sold then, I loved it. Then one thing led on from that to another, I just started getting little jobs because I'd done a little bit volunteering, but it made me a little bit more employable. So I got a couple of short-term jobs. Then I made friends with a guy who did it full-time, and then I started getting more jobs, and then eventually I got a job with one of the big companies. I did that for about 15 or 16 years, and then I started up on my own. So I learned completely on the tools. At that time there was no MVQ, there is an MVQ now that you can do. It usually takes about a year and a half, let's say, or 2 years to get to a point where your kind of boss or your team leader could bring you a drawing and discuss it a little bit in the morning, or what you're going to do during the day, and then leave you to it. But it takes that long to get to that point. But then to get to what you might call a journeyman carpenter, which is where you might travel around and get a job for any company, and they would immediately give you a job at the top rate for a carpenter. That might take 6 or 7, 8 years, something like that typically. It's quite a long process to get to that point. But like I say, then there's still absolutely tons to learn after that. It never ends. Keeps you on your toes. There's always more to learn. I've been doing it 25 years, but I'm still learning every day. We use the traditional method because it's a better method. In pretty much all other types of carpentry, you take a piece of wood and you make it straight, and you plane it so that it's flat and so that it's a perfect square or a perfect rectangle or whatever shape you want. For the traditional framing, building houses out of large section timbers all pegged together. With timbers that are so big, it's unreasonable to consider that as an option. What you have to do is you have to find a way of joining two bits of timber together that are both imperfect. It'll be twisted, it'll be out of square, it'll probably be bent along its length, maybe in two directions like a banana. And that's what I specialise in, that's what traditional framers do. So you have to learn how to deal with timber that is very imperfect in its shape, and also which is going to continue moving from here on. You have to be a bit clever about how you do it. You have to find a way, and that's what is called scribing. Imagine you were doing a cross-section of a house, you would draw that on the floor, and then you would lay all the timbers over it. You can imagine that if you took a bent bit of timber and you tried to work out where it had to go, it would be very difficult to do. But because you've got the drawing on the floor, you can use a French plumb. It has a hole in the middle, and you can look down through it at the drawing. If you imagine if this was just above the floor down there. And that means you can position your bit of timber very accurately, and you level it up. And that's what allows you to do the scribing, the scribal. At that point, then you scribe the joints and you cut the joints, put it all together. Usually doesn't fit first time very well. You kind of muck about with it a little bit, and then you get it so it's just right. And then you take it to bits, you number it all very carefully with traditional numbering, and you take it out to the stack, and when you get to site, and you're putting the house up, you can look at all the numbers and it tells you exactly where that piece went, because every single one is different. And you can't make 20 posts for a house and then expect any post to go in any location. So then you get to site and you put it all together like a jigsaw puzzle and peg it all up with the drawn pegs. That's the other thing that's very specific to what I do, is that we use drawn pegs. So here's one I prepared earlier. And as you can see, it's thinner at this end than at this end. And so when it goes through the joint, it pulls the joint together. So you go to site and you put the frame together with these things, and that's it. So it's kind of this mad frenzy of activity when you go to site for a couple of days. But everything that you've done for that month is just leading up to that quickly putting up the building. It depends on a whole load of things. The quality, the amount of detail, the kind of wood you're using, various things like that. But let's say, for example, this corbel, it's got carving all across the front, it's got scrolls here, and it's got carving on the sides as well. Maybe a week to do the actual carving, and maybe add on maybe a day for kind of assembling. And then there's quite a lot of finishing as well. You know, painting and a bit of filling. That's the most difficult question, really, because there's so many good projects. The thing is that when I was younger and when I first started, the best projects were the ones that were just basically either the biggest or the most complicated. And actually, thinking about it, my favourite project now, more recently in the last few years, has been the Japanese garden dollar. The reason I like it is because it's different than what I usually do, I suppose. It's a Japanese gate in a very traditional Japanese style, and it's for this Japanese garden in dollar. And the reason I like it is just mainly because it's very different to what I normally do. But there's loads of things in it which are things that I can actually, that I specialise in, that I do specialise in, if you see what I mean. So like making this wobbly wobbly post fit well with this cross piece here is exactly what the kind of thing that I specialise in. It's working with bits of timber that are not regular and that are not perfect in one way or another. And so for me the nice thing is that it's been pushing my boundaries, but at the same time I'm also in relatively comfortable territory because it's what I've actually been doing for a while. And I like the look of it because it just looks like it's diving into a completely different world.